So, welcome to our Your Desktop in the Cloud webinar. Today, we are talking to central and local government and blue lights. And this is your chance to learn all about Windows Virtual Desktop and how SOL-TEC and Microsoft can help transform the way you deliver desktop and productivity solutions to your workforce. Today, we are going to explore why desktop virtualization, and specifically Windows Virtual Desktop, has such a strong business case for government and blue lights. Then Ryan will show us how easy it is to deploy, and if you already have virtualized desktops, how they can be simply migrated across to Windows Virtual Desktop. Then we'll tell you what further resources we can give you, wrapping up with any questions you have. As we go along, please feel free to add any questions into the chat window, and we will do our best to answer them all at the end of the presentation. Let me tell you a bit about SOL-TEC briefly. Working with Microsoft throughout its 27 years, SOL-TEC transformed from a traditional IT company to cloud first around 5 years ago. We are now a Microsoft Gold partner in 6 disciplines, including cloud platform and cloud productivity. In July this year, we were the only UK finalist in the Global Microsoft Partner of the Year Azure Influencer Award for partnering with a public sector organisation to move from AWS to Azure, resulting in better capabilities and lower costs. Just last month, we were the first UK Microsoft partner to become Windows Server and SQL Server migration to Azure advanced specialists. We work with many public sector organisations across government, blue lights, education and health, and the vast experience this has given us means we know what works, what doesn't work, and how to deliver as a partner rather than as a supplier. At SOL-TEC, we are technical and strategic experts, not salespeople. And our focus is delivering successful outcomes for the public sector. So we don't have a sales department. Instead, we build new customer relationships through recommendations and references, and we hold on to our customers because we work with them as their partner. I'm Sarah, and I'm leading this webinar today because I've been at the sharp end like you. Before I joined SOL-TEC, I was IT manager at Colchester Borough Council, where I led a 3-year transformation programme with SOL-TEC as our partner. The fundamental strands of that programme were to deliver modern IT platforms and capabilities that enabled our services to digitally transform. That included making sure our 1,500 staff could connect wherever and whenever they chose, adopting Office 365 and SharePoint, harnessing Dynamics 365, moving legacy applications to the cloud, and joining that all up to ensure business continuity and disaster recovery by design. The whole programme was supported by adoption specialists to help service managers realise opportunities and to help end users embrace the technologies. We are running this webinar today as one of a series about Windows Virtual Desktop for different parts of the public sector, because we really believe it can make a massive difference to your delivery of modern IT. If you're on a journey like Colchester's, Windows Virtual Desktop could be the final step to full cloud. Why desktop virtualization? Well, one of the main appeals of desktop virtualization has always been the ability to separate the horsepower and compute operations from any user data. By separating the user's applications, data, and operating systems, and then hosting each of these on a remote server environment, you can centrally manage all your resources without compromising security. Traditionally, though, desktop virtualization has often been complex and expensive to set up and manage. It could often take weeks or even months to get a successful implementation up and running and into the hands of users. When it was finally ready for use, users often suffered from a subpar experience compared to a rich, locally provisioned desktop, particularly with regard to productivity apps. Windows Virtual Desktop seeks to take all those headaches and limitations away. Windows 10 and Office 365 provides the most productive and most secure experience for your users, while reducing complexity and lowering your total cost of ownership. It helps employees stay as productive with a virtualized experience on a PC, phone, tablet, or browser as they are with a physical PC sitting right in front of them. It simplifies management, provisioning, and access to corporate data and apps. It reduces the costs and resources associated with managing on-premises infrastructure, and it empowers IT to transform the workplace. Let's look at some of the specific benefits that could go into your business case for Windows Virtual Desktop. Number one, free yourself from your data center and from the cycle of capital investment, followed by sweating your assets before it takes another big investment and a world of pain to change. Number two, taking everything to cloud introduces inherent resilience and availability alongside easily applying full BC and DR measures and taking priority workloads into high availability sets. You can quickly implement BC and DR plans at a fraction of the cost of traditional solutions. Number three, scale up and down instantly to make sure you meet demand at year end or whenever you need it, whilst minimizing resources and therefore costs at quiet times, such as school holidays. Number four, your customer and confidential information is secured in the virtual desktop environment, keeping it away from individual devices that could be lost or compromised. Number five, it's always up to date and cloud connected. You can manage your Windows Virtual Desktop via Config Manager and Intune, making management and monitoring easy while leveraging the existing skills of your team. Number six, your Windows Virtual Desktop really doesn't care how you want to access it, making it perfect for supplied kit or bring your own device. Your PC, laptop, tablet, and even your phone, you'll get consistent experience across the board. From Surface Pro to Chromebook, whatever your device strategy, Windows Virtual Desktop delivers the compute you need and all the apps you are familiar with without any technical constraints on the underlying device. Number seven, some of our systems seem to stay with us for a lifetime, and many of them came about before it's conceivable you could deliver them from the cloud. Now you can have them on-premise or in the cloud and stream them to your user's virtual desktop, so the device it's accessed from is your choice. Number eight, Windows 7 goes end of life on 14th of January 2020. And with Windows Virtual Desktop, you'll get free extended security updates whilst you plan and execute your move to Windows 10. And finally, although it may not be the final reason, so I'm sure there are lots more, but the final of our reasons today is that most public sector Microsoft licenses will include the rights to use Windows Virtual Desktop without any further licensing bills, leaving only the costs for compute, storage and networking. And you can save money on compute and storage with reserved instances and possibly even hybrid benefits. Here's an outline of what Windows Virtual Desktop provides for you. It takes care of all of this, letting you get on with delivering value and not worrying about keeping everything running. For E3 and E5 licenses, you'll have all of these services included. The only cost to you will be the virtual machines themselves and the storage. So let's meet a few people facing some familiar challenges. This is Sam. She is head of IT for a public sector organisation with 2,000 staff. As I'm sure you'll understand, keeping costs down or continuing to reduce them remains a priority for her. Increasing flexible remote And remote working across the workforce means resilience and availability are hot topics at senior management level. On top of that, end users are showing increasing frustration with virtual desktop speed and capability as expectations continue to rise, but aging infrastructure holds it back. Dev is the infrastructure manager reporting into Sam. He knows their current on-premise technology better than anyone and has delivered VDI solutions via traditional means for years. Dev finds he is being asked to deliver new services much more quickly than before. Service managers and staff expect things to happen yesterday, and the current infrastructure is not up to the job. He wants to improve the user experience and improve the feedback his team receives. He has a number of high priority legacy applications and he's doing his best to handle a growth in demand while being asked to consistently reduce costs. He knows that several of his core services are going end of support soon and that his hardware is starting to creak and can do with an upgrade or being replaced altogether. And finally, Andy is a service team leader responsible for around 30 people and the services they deliver. He moves between office locations, spending time with different sub-teams at work, and sometimes works at home to get things done in peace. Lots of his team members work between locations too, and they need the right IT to work and collaborate in any environment. His team often handles sensitive personal information, and he is the information asset owner responsible. So he's looking to IT to help him keep things secure while helping his team to be as effective as possible. So how does Windows Virtual Desktop stack up for Sam, Dev and Andy? Firstly, Windows Virtual Desktop allows you to provide your users with the only multi-session Windows 10 experience virtualized in the cloud that is always up to date, scales as you need it to, and is not only available, but a great experience on any device. Windows Virtual Desktop helps Sam to ensure that everyone can access the same desktop wherever and whenever they are, whether they choose to use their laptop, their phone, their iPad, or a combination of all of them, giving them access to the same apps and files securely. Dev is able to deliver desktops to users in a fraction of the time. He no longer needs to wait for hardware to be delivered or to install operating systems and application software. He simply logs into the Azure portal and provisions new desktops immediately. Windows Virtual Desktop enables optimizations for Office 365, and all the Office applications that you rely on are right there. New FSLogics technologies mean that login and application launch times are sped up dramatically, allowing you to deliver a great Office 365 experience, even in multi-user, non-persistent environments. Dev is happy as this allows him to deliver a better experience to his users and improve the reputation of his department, while Sam is pleased to see good feedback from end users about better desktop performance. Next, to benefit from the simplified management and deployment experience, you can migrate your existing Windows Server remote desktop environment to Windows Virtual Desktop. Dev can use his existing skills and expertise to deliver a stable and secure environment in a fraction of the time. Andy, our service team leader, gets a first-class productivity experience for his team on whatever device they choose to use and wherever they are working, and they can reach all the applications they rely on every day. Finally, a top feature of Windows Virtual Desktop is the ability to deploy and scale quickly and easily. Back in the day, for provisioning and managing remote desktop environments, it took a long time to deploy a new solution or effectively scale an existing one, often having to wait for new hardware to be delivered, installed and configured before you can even begin to think about getting users up and running. Now, you can quickly virtualize and deploy both your modern and legacy apps to the cloud in minutes, manage them easily through the Azure portal, and dynamically scale as needed, ensuring you have the horsepower you need to keep your users happy without spending more than you need to. One of the key differentiators of Windows Virtual Desktop comes from Microsoft's acquisition of FSLogics. Eligible customers get access to 3 core pieces of technology. No doubt we've all felt the pain of roaming profiles and folder redirection. So profile containers will roam your Office cache data and your Windows Search DB, leading to dramatically improved times for logon and launching applications. App masking allows you to create a single gold image with all applications without the need to package and without needing to stand up specific infrastructure or virtualization. And Java redirection maps specific Java versions to specific apps or websites, reducing the complexity and security vulnerabilities inherent in maintaining multiple installed versions. Now that we know a little bit more about what Windows Virtual Desktop is and how it can solve challenges for IT and end users, let's dive into a demo of how it works, for which I will hand you over to Ryan. Ryan is one of our cloud solutions architects and has just returned from Microsoft Ignite in Orlando, where he dived deeper into the Windows Virtual Desktop world. Ryan, over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. So hi all, I'm Ryan Williams. I'm a Cloud Solutions Architect here at SOL-TEC. And as mentioned, I'm going to give you a high-level overview demo on Windows Virtual Desktop. So what I'll be demonstrating today is deploying a new host pool from the Azure Marketplace using a Windows 10 image with Office 365 installed. I'll give you an overview of the management GUI. We'll be connecting to a session host, disconnecting from that session host after creating and saving a document, and then reconnecting to a different host in the host pool. And I'm also going to do that using an iOS device. I'll also give you a quick demonstration of using a remote app to stream Google Chrome to my client. I'll also go over some migration as well of Windows Virtual Desktops. So you'll also hear me use some keywords today. I just wanted to give you a brief explanation on what they mean. So we have the word tenant. The tenant is the primary interface for managing your Windows Virtual Desktop environment. The tenant must be associated with an Azure AD containing the users who you will sign into your environment, and host pools are contained within this tenant. You have a tenant group to start with. Every tenant has a default group called default tenant group. For most businesses, this is all you're going to need with a single tenant underneath. In some scenarios, if you're managing host pools from other Azure ADs, the tenants are all placed into a single tenant group to inherit certain properties. Host pools. So host pools is a collection of Azure virtual machines that are registered to the Windows Virtual Desktop as session hosts, much like your RDS farms or Citrix VDIs are on premises. And a host pool can be one of two types. We can have a personal host pool, where each session host is assigned to an individual user, and a pooled host pool, where session hosts can accept connections from any user authorized to an app group within the host pool. We also have app groups. Now, an app group is a remote desktop or grouping of applications. So there are two types of these as well. So you have desktop. Very simply, this is where users access the full desktop. And then you have remote app groups, where users access the remote apps that are streamed from the hosts. So before I get started, I have done some prerequisite setup ahead of today. I've installed the necessary PowerShell module we use for creating Windows Virtual Desktop tenants, host pools, and controlling other settings. I've also already enabled the enterprise application in Azure AD for the Windows Virtual Desktop service and created a tenant with two host pools ahead of time. And we'll use those later on in the demo. I've also set up a service principal in Azure AD and granted it RDS owner over our tenant. So as you can see here, what I've just been running through is some commands here in Windows PowerShell. Just to note, this is Windows PowerShell, not PowerShell Core, as the Windows Virtual Desktop module is not compatible with PowerShell Core at this time. So the commands that I've been running, so the first command was to show that the PowerShell module is installed. The command that I just ran just now was authenticating to the Windows Virtual Desktop service that's hosted by Microsoft. As you can see, I've got my tenant that I created earlier, called Ryan Virtual Desktop Tenant. And also I've got, this is my role assignment for service principal I set up earlier. See, it's got RDS owner over the tenant. And finally, I have my existing host pools that I've created ahead of today. Next, we're going to go into the Azure portal and deploy a Windows Virtual Desktop host pool. So I'm going to select to create a new resource. From here, I search for the Windows Virtual Desktop host pool option, and I'm going to select Create. Once the wizard begins, I'm just going to fill in the region. I'm going to select type in the host pool name. The type of host pool I'm going to want to use. In this instance, I'm going to select the personal option. User, I'm just going to use myself for now. The metadata location, United States is the only one available today. Just going to number of users, it's just me. I don't need that big a VM, so let's go for a D4. And I'm going to give a virtual name prefix. Moving on, I'm going to select to use the Azure Gallery, and I'm using Windows 10 with Office 365 installed. Give it some premium SSD. All hosts in the host pool, we must join to a Windows Server AD. So I'm going to give you the details of I'm not going to give you. I'm going to enter the details of a service account here. Just a sec. Get the password from my password safe. Right. Specify what the domain name is and where in the domain I want to place the hosts. These from the notepad. And I'm going to select which virtual network I want to join the desktop to. Tenant, one that I created earlier. I'm going to select the service principal that I granted a role assignment to. You can use a UPN, but the UPN can't have multi-factor authentication enabled, which in this day and age, most will. So that's why service principal is being used instead. Just get my password and stuff here from my password safe. Right. Good. And the Azure AD tenant ID that I want to join host pool to. Review and create. And then create. So this ARM deployment will run. This will create me my host pool. It'll register it with the Windows Virtual Desktop service, and it will deploy my personal VDI and associate it with the host pool for me. Now, in the interest of time, this is going to take about 10 minutes, about the same amount of time it will take to deploy an Azure virtual machine. And as I've only got about 20 minutes or so for the demo, I'm going to show you the host pool management GUI and some hosts that I prepared ahead of today. So first off, I'm going to go to the Windows Virtual Desktop Management Portal to show you the host pool. From this portal, you can view and manage your tenants and change the tenant group. Drilling down into the tenant group, into the tenant, you can see that I have 2 host pools already. The first host pool is non-persistent, and the second host pool is persistent for personal VDIs. And as you see, I can do some basic options like edit and delete host pools from here. So selecting the first host pool, you can see I've got 2 session hosts in here. I can view connected users, and I can edit the settings of the host as well. I can also, from here, delete hosts. It's important to note this only disassociates the host from the host pool. It doesn't remove the VM from Azure. You can also look at the app group settings for the host pool, where you can see there's a default application group for granting desktop access. There's also a Google Chrome application as well. You can also see I can edit and delete app groups from here. So what I'm going to do next is connect to the host as an end user. There are several ways to do this. We can use the web browser, the Windows client, Mac OS client, and the iOS client. I'll start by showing you the browser option. So I'm going to start by opening a new browser tab and then the virtual desktop client URL. I'll just sign into the portal here. In the top right, you can see the current logged in user, and under the settings icon, you can see that some settings are company managed. I just want to full screen my browser session. So I'll be using the first host pool where our pooled session hosts are. Just going to sign in here and get connected. Username. Password. Nope, I don't want you to remember my password. So now I'm logged in. You can see I have a few applications installed. So we've got Google Chrome, Firefox, and there is Office 365. This host pool was deployed in the same way I deployed the other one just now, but instead of an Azure Gallery image, I'm using a custom image. Right. So the important thing to note is this session host is non-persistent and can be easily redeployed. This also means that the user directory on the session host is non-persistent. So with Windows Virtual Desktop, as Sarah mentioned earlier, there is a new product called FSLogics, which Microsoft have required. So what this effectively does is redirects the whole user profile to a profile container mounted from an SMB share. So in this instance, we are using a Windows file server for our demo, but you can also use Azure files or Azure NetApp files for high levels of performance. You can also use the FSLogics cloud cache configuration to set up 4 different providers, such as file server, Azure files, NetApp files, but also Azure blob storage. What this allows is for high availability and redundancy. So there's also many other benefits, as we went over on the FSLogics slide, allow me to show you how the profile redirection works. So I've just started a new document here. So I'm going to type words in here. This All right. This is text. Save that. We call this as a document. And do the typical thing and save it on my desktop. And now that we've saved the file, we'll check what host I'm currently located on. And so as you can see, I'm logged into host number 1. So now to log off and set the host so I can't log back into it. Right. So let's move to the management portal and drain the host. So we'll locate host number 1 and set to drain the host. There we go. Now, for the reconnection, I'm going to show this being done from iOS. So I'm just going to switch over the screen here, and we shall watch me connecting from iOS and most importantly to host number 0. And we'll see my document located on the desktop. So I'll launch a remote desktop app and select to connect to the session pool. Give me a second here while I put in my username and password. It's going to take much longer this time because I have fat fingers and a small screen. I am typing my password here. iOS is just very conveniently hiding the fact. There we go. We're connecting. So just waiting for the login to complete. And now that we're logged in on the desktop, you can see our document. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. And while that loads, let's just check the host pool name to make sure that we're on host pool 0. Forgive the 4G connection, just a little bit of lag. Right, now we have PowerShell window. Do that up a little bit. And we'll type hostname. And as you can see, we are connected to host 0 in the host pool. Now, behind PowerShell and the document I opened, here we go. This is some text. So now that's done. Let's log off and I'll show you Google Chrome remote app running from the Windows OS desktop client. Now I'm back on my desktop. As you can see, I've launched the Windows OS client, but rather than seeing a host pool option, as we did with the browser option and iOS, you can see just Google Chrome remote app. This is because I'm mimicking another end user with the Windows OS client. So if I double click the Google Chrome app, Google Chrome is launched as a remote app. And if you look at the little icon, it is running in a remote app session. Additionally, if I go to the management portal, just behind here, and select host 0, you can see the current logged in user. From here, I can force the user to log off, killing the remote app session. So I've demonstrated so far how you can rapidly deploy a personal VDI from the Azure Gallery in a matter of minutes, and also connecting to host pools and moving between hosts in the same host pool with all my files intact and instantly available to me. So the next part I'm going to move on to is how you may want to migrate your existing RDS environments from on-premises into the Windows Virtual Desktop service. So this is a two-phase process involving assessment and migration. Now, in the interest of time, I won't be able to do a complete assessment and migration here today. So I'm going to demonstrate the process of creating an Azure Migrate project and looking at the tools on offer from Microsoft today and the steps we'd take after we'd completed a server migration. To do this, you go to Azure Migrate in the Azure portal. We'll click Add Tools and follow the wizard to create a new migration project. So we'll name the project and where we want to store the metadata. Clicking Next, we'll select an assessment tool from Microsoft partner called Lakeside. And then we'll select the migration tool called Server Migrate. And we'll review and then we'll click Add Tools. Both steps are optional, so if you already have a well-tuned environment, the migration step could be skipped, or if the migration tool doesn't support migrating from your source environment, an alternative can be used instead. Now this is where SOL-TEC comes in as a partner, and we offer a few assessment and migration methods. So in the interest of time, let's assume we've completed our assessment and migration of our VDIs from on-premises to Azure. And then I'm going to show you how easy it is to then register your migrated VDI to a host pool. So glancing back to the Windows Virtual Desktop Management portal and looking at my other host pool, you can see there are no hosts associated with it. So to get started registering VDIs, I need to generate a registration token. So at the moment, this can only be achieved via PowerShell using the module I showed you that was installed earlier. So in PowerShell, I'm just going to type new registration info for my tenant and host pool. And I'm going to take this token. Just put it to one side in clipboard. Again, in the interest of time, I've set up a Windows 7 Enterprise VM in Azure. Just going to get the RDP window open. There it is. Right. Username, password. Let me fetch my admin password. Launched. There we go. And now we're connected. Let's launch IE and install the necessary agents. So bear with me while I download 2 agents onto the VDI. The first agent is the desktop agent used to register the VDI with a host pool. And the second agent we're going to install afterwards as well is going to be the desktop management agent. That's the second one, save. So to begin, we'll start with the desktop agent install. Yes, we'll accept the terms and conditions or token. So just grab that. Next, install. So while that runs, there are a few of the things I completed ahead of time. So this Windows 7 virtual machine, I've installed Remote Desktop Protocol 8 update. which is necessary for Windows 7 and 2008 R2 virtual machines to function with the Windows Virtual Desktop service. Secondly, I also set a group policy to enable that protocol. This is quite important to allow the connection, the end user using the Windows Virtual Desktop client. So there we go, finish. And now we'll install the management agent. And yes, next install. And while this runs, the other thing to mention is if you're properly licensed to run Windows Virtual Desktop workloads, you must set the settings on the VDIs migrated to Azure. You can do this in the same way you would enable hybrid benefit in the VM properties blade in Azure portal, or you can do it via PowerShell. Right, finish. So now the installs are completed. I'm going to log off from the server. I should show you the host is now registered with that empty host pool. So back to the Windows Virtual Desktop Management Portal, and by hitting refresh, you will see the VDI pop up in the host lists. From here, I can now connect to the VDI as an end user. To do this, I'll go back to the web portal, select the other host pool, allow, and type in my username, password. And there you go. I've successfully connected to the Windows 7 VDI that I migrated from on-premises. So just to close off on the migration, so as you can see, it's very easy to register existing RDSH servers and personal VDIs with the Windows Virtual Desktop service. There are some other things to consider during the migration, is moving your user profile directories to FSLogic. So this has a couple of migration approaches depending on your current RDS environment. Microsoft are currently developing a user profile disk to FSLogic migration solution. This was demoed at Microsoft Ignite, where I attended this session. So if you want to see that, I recommend go watch that on the MS Ignite demand videos. Otherwise, again, in areas like this, when it comes to migrating, be it from group policy, user redirected directories, just to SMB shares, this is where SOL-TEC comes in as a Microsoft partner and it helps with moving user directories to overcome these challenges. So that concludes my demo, and for the rest of the webinar, I'm going to hand back over to Sarah.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Appreciate that. So, thank you for your time today. We hope it has been useful to understand more about Windows Virtual Desktop. We would love to share some additional information and content with you. So we have created a landing page that collects all the information you would ever need to know around Windows Virtual Desktop into one handy location, and also includes a recording of this webinar. We want to help you realise the benefits we have discussed for your organisation and staff, so we would like to offer the opportunity to discuss your particular needs in a workshop session with us. We'll be in touch following this webinar to see how we can help. If you would like to explore a guided pilot or personalised proposal with us, we'd love to hear from you. Contact us on the WVD email address or through the landing page we share with you afterwards. So now is your chance to ask any questions. Please go ahead and post them into the Q&A window if you haven't already. And let's have a look at what we have over there. So we have a question about licensing. How do we purchase Windows Virtual Desktop, and what happens to our existing Windows Server RDS licenses? The great news is you can access Windows 10 Enterprise and Windows 7 Enterprise at no additional cost if you have an eligible Windows 10 Enterprise or Microsoft 365 license. You can access desktops powered by Windows Server Remote Desktop Services at no additional cost too if you are an eligible RDS or CAL customer. I hope that answers that question. Do we have any others? Oh, we have a question from Joe. Yes, RDS, bit clunky and expensive. How do I control costs? Okay. Well, you only pay for the Azure compute, storage and networking associated with the virtual machines that you use in your environment. So you can take advantage of options such as 1 or 3 year reserved VM instances, which can save you up to 72% compared to pay-as-you-go pricing. Reserved instances are flexible and can be easily exchanged or returned. I hope that's useful. So do we have any others? No, I think that's it for today. So thank you for your questions. That's the end of our webinar. Thank you, Ryan, for taking us through the demo. That was fantastic.
No worries.
Good stuff. We hope to hear from you, anyone watching this webinar, about getting a pilot underway soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Yes. Bye all.
Bye.